similar. We've all said we want to stop doing something that we know we shouldn't be doing. That is the first. If you didn't know today, you want to know that was God convicting your spirit, because he wants to convict your spirit so you can know, daughter, let that go. I got you. Just give it to me. Give it to me, daughter. Give it to me. And what the enemy does is the enemy knows he has a small time frame to get there before you wake up. And see, what God will do is, when you don't hear God the first time, he'll allow it the second, third, fourth. He'll allow to feel as if the walls are closing in, to make you feel as if the enemy is getting the best of you. Also, you could say a cry. God, I'm tired. Please, Father, take this sin away from me. Father, I want to do good. Or God, man, I don't know if you hear me, bit, bro. Please help me. Some way along the line, we've asked for help, whether it be whether we knew it was in a prayer form or not. Me talking to you right there. If you're saying, God, man, I really want to stop this addiction. Just tying God's name to that within itself. Some may say, oh, that's not a prayer. Well, I do a lot of ghetto prayers, so I call this a ghetto prayer. God hears every form of prayer, no matter if you're from the streets, no matter if you can speak intelligent, no matter what type of way you come to God. God says, come as you are, cast your burdens upon me, not upon men. See, what you got to understand is, when you have problems and you have addictions and you try to face that by yourself, you have to remember, even though you are God's creation, because you have a deception attached to you, because you have a false identity that the enemy has placed on you, you can't see past being just a man. See, what you have to understand, the only person that can activate your spiritual eyes, the only person that can activate, meaning, I'm going to break this down so no, you don't take this and run with it. The only person that can reveal to you who you truly is, show you what you're truly capable of, and actually allow you to be free from everything that the enemy attached to you is God. Because when God says something, every tongue must confess, and every enemy, no matter who they is, they must bow down. I don't know what you on today. Well, let me tell you something. Now, even though God led me to this script, God led me to a book. This is about new beginnings. See, I'm gonna be transparent. But it's been 13 days since I've been on live. I was very nervous today. Nervous, scared. I said I couldn't do it. I knew that wasn't me, but it was the fact that God allowed it to come into my mind to see, what's I gonna do? Was I going to actually listen to it? Or was God going to allow me to come into a safe place and speak to him so that he could show me, script me of everything that the enemy wanted to attach to me to keep from getting it out? What you have to understand is, where there is barriers, know that because you have God, and once you allow God in your life, no matter what barrier, no matter what limit that man puts on you, God oversees and does everything. Because when Jesus say yes, nobody can say. I know everybody know that song. When Jesus say yes, nobody can say no. When he say yes, I don't care how strong the enemy is. I don't care what deception he put on your life. I don't care. It's some simple. Okay, prime example. I'm in this book called Habakkuk. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it right. But it's the fact of, even though I didn't know how to pronounce the name, I didn't stop that from allowing God to use that. Because what God said when he took me to something new. See, what God would do is, before we get into that, what God would do is he will put you in a sense of making you feel and crave something new. You dealing with sins. You dealing with that deception. You dealing with that addiction that you have. The reason why God convicts your spirit and tell you to stop doing that, because he wants you to do something new. Meaning, you doing something new is choosing to see God's way more. And what God does is he allows us to sit in the wilderness, to become knowledgeable of the ways of the enemy. And what it does is we build up a sense of intolerance. So when the enemy throws everything in our hands and we can't accept no more, guess what? That is the time when God comes and say, clear all. And what God does is say, okay, daughter, I'm gonna let you get sick and tired of getting one way or the other. You go get sick and tired of dealing with everything that I told you to let go of. But see, you didn't know how to hear me. So I made it feel like your problems were too high. But I know what I did? I stripped you of that control that you had over your life. Because what you didn't know is you trying to be in control of your life. You trying to figure out all the problems, how to defeat all the problems yourself. It's the very thing that the enemy used to manipulate you and to keep you in the darkness. See, checkmate on the enemy's end is make you think you can do it alone. Because if you do it alone, you don't know the truth that only God can activate the things that you have in you. You're naturally a conqueror. You naturally step on the heads and cuts off the head of serpents. So what you have to understand is you have a natural ability. You have a true purpose. This identity that you're living in is not the one that God promised you. Because no matter how low you view yourself, God says in his word, his ways are higher than your ways and his thoughts are higher than your thoughts. What you have to understand is even when you think low of yourself, know that every day you wake up, God gave you an opportunity to let go and let him. We've all, whether we recognize it or not, you say, man, I'm tired of doing this. That was God telling you to let that go. I'm tired of dealing with my boyfriend. He don't treat you. Could no, listen. You can know something is not good for you, and you will stay all because of the manipulation that the enemy is using with your control. You invested time into negative things. You investing time into things and places that don't serve you. When it's time to let go and let God, you can't because you don't know how to. Because what the enemy does is he manipulates our control. He manipulates our time. We invest into things which builds habits, which builds habits. It builds a form of conditioning. Even how people treat you, that's a form of conditioning to make you used to that. So guess what? Even when you see, when God convicts your spirit, say, daughter, let that go. Daughter, that man ain't right for you. I don't know who on the, you done said, you know your boyfriend cheating on you. You know your boyfriend done went and had a baby on you, but you still can't let go, even though you know this man is not right for you. Let me tell you something. If you, as a person, continue to think that what you're saying, you keep saying, I'm tired of let go. You keep saying, I'm tired of that job. You keep saying this. And it's not even the fact that it's the job. It's the fact that we say stuff unknowingly every day that confirms that God is telling us things in our life that he wants to address us. You saying, I'm sick and tired of that job. You know that job don't treat you right. The reason why God is allowing you to hear that, and you've been saying it for quite a while, I don't know who this is confirmation for. You say, I'm sick of my job. And you know it ain't because you lazy. Now, we ain't talking about the fact that you just want to be lazy and be kicked back. We talking about a person who knows they're a hard worker, who knows that they go over and beyond for their job. And you say you sick of that job because you know that job irritates you when you walk in there. The fact that you know that you unappreciated in your relationship, to know that you unappreciate in your marriage. For those who are suffering from marriage problems, let me tell you something. The only man that could change that person who works at your job, that husband that you got, that girlfriend you got, is him. But what God does is God knows the hearts of every man that he's allowed to be around you. See, what you have to understand, you can't get mad at them because they was doing their purpose. Their purpose was to make you realize where you was going wrong at. See, you didn't know that God allowed people like that to be around you to build up a sense of inequity. What does that mean? A sense of intolerance. I'm sorry. A sense of intolerance, which means you will no longer tolerate the bull in your life. Because when you don't know how to hear God, God will allow you to be in the darkness to learn how to hear him. Because guess what? Everywhere you'll go, you'll find something you don't like. I'm tired of being around negative people. Well, guess what? You saying that, every time you said that, I want you to know right now, through my mouth, you ain't got to believe me. That was God telling you that he wants to heal you in that area. He wants to correct that area. God wants to take you out of the rooms where people don't value you and place you in the rooms that you belong in. But first, you got to go through a form of recognition. See, the reason why the word pray is powerful, because the P in pray is the power. The R in pray is recognizing. The A in pray is acceptance, and the Y in pray is you becoming a better you. See, what you have to understand is when you get sick or tired of being sick or tired, you go from saying, oh, I'm tired of this job, I'm tired of this, and you know it's not because, you know what I'm saying, you know that you actually tired because you know you deserve better. But the reason why we stay in situations that we know we're not supposed to be in is because, honestly, let's keep it real, we feel like we can't do better. And for those who we know we could do better, the only thing that's keeping us in that darkness is because we don't know how to do better. Here you go. This is what God does. God will raise up a stranger and speak on your situation, to verify the existence of him, all to take you out of that form of darkness, because we only perish because of lack of knowledge. If God gives you the knowledge and you don't run with it, you are the only person that keeps you there. The enemy can't physically harm you. He can only do things to affect you. The only reason why everything that the enemy does to affect you becomes a life and a reality is because you give him that power to have that authority and that balance, that negative balance on you. So what you have to understand is, whatever you do more of, the fruits of that labor shows. When you walking halfway, guess what? Every one of us had to start from somewhere. Did you not know that Paul, what's his name, Saul, he was a killer? Now that's one of the abominations in God's Bible. It don't matter what you think you have did that God can use you for. See, that's your problem. God says his ways are not your ways. The way he views you is not how, the way you view yourself is not how he view you. See, the enemy done came and you kill the mind, you kill the progress. You fill the mind with doubt, you fill the mind with doubt, you create room for negativity, fear, and vacancy. When you fill the mind with God, you bring in healing, knowledge, power, and stability. So what you have to understand is the difference between being in a form of suffering, and it's a difference between having a form of stability. See, well, you are doing what the enemy wants you believing in that false identity. You believing that you're not stronger than them battles. Notice this now. I don't care what the enemy attached to you. The only way it becomes a reality is when you believe in that. But when you believe that God can solve all that, and you truly believe that wholeheartedly, you will see God do things in moderation. Well, even if you done said that prayer, then you'll look back 6 months and you say, man, I remember I used to smoke 10 packs of Newports a day. Don't know who smoke Newports. Now I'm only smoking one. Nah, I don't know it's 10 packs. Some people can. Okay, I used to smoke 10 cigarettes a day. 9 months later, I'm only smoking one a day. Listen, I don't care what people say about you. That right there is a form of progression. Rome wasn't built overnight. You getting to that age you're at now didn't happen overnight. Then it took some time. Then it took some time till you develop them habits. It takes 21 days to form a habit. Did you know that? So guess what? It took time to make those habits. It took time for those deceptions to actually activate themselves, because those things are attached to you when you're vulnerable. The enemy attaches them deceptions, those sins, from the moment you was born. Because the reason why he preys upon kids and he preys upon that, yes, even though their kids are connected with God, guess what? They don't know yet how to fight the enemy off. So even when you have things that was been attached to you since birth, through the fact of you not knowing, and then what the enemy also does is he attaches things to you when you're in vulnerability. That moment when you got real vulnerable with God and you prayed. And after you said that prayer, so a lot of y'all on here done said that prayer, you done tried praying to God. And when you prayed to God, after you prayed to God, notice your life got worse. That right there, you made the enemy mad when you did that. You didn't know the power. See, what we didn't know is sometimes what we don't know is when you do something for your good and you know it's good and the enemy know what it's going to do for you, guess what he gonna do? He gonna do everything in your power to make you not believe and not to keep wanting to do that. He go turn up the hand. God go alive, because guess what? The more God allows these things to happen in our life, we go get sick and tired of being sick and tired. So when we truly walk with God, guess what? No matter what the enemy throws at us, God will take what the enemy is using to attach to us, and God will use that to draw us closer to him. And once we are closer to him to where we can hear him and understand him, or even just trust him, because even some of us can't hear him, but we trust that God got our back. That trust right there is what's going to allow God to make you strong, because that trust is a form of bond. You being able to hear to God is a form of bond. A form of bond. You being obedient to what God is telling you, that's a form of a bond. What you have to understand is, I know I said I was gonna get into this word, but I gotta let y'all know this right now. What you have to understand is, yes, you've been attacked. Yes, you've been lied to. Yes, you've been betrayed. Yes, you done said that I'm tired of being him. For those who want to commit suicide, I'm tired of being him. The enemy wants you to think that just so you don't know your purpose, or how, you know how many people you will affect by doing that? A lot of people that you have around you won't even tell you that you are light to them. But for those of you who don't know how valuable you are, let me let you know. If you are a person who all your friends come to when they need something, you are light. If you are a person that everybody make fun of and you don't got nothing, meaning if you're a person that's bullied and you don't know why people bully you, you got something, you are light. If you a person, when it's time to ride, let's say we got some people on here who be on the block, when it's time to ride, they want you to be the shooter, or they want you to set up guy. However, I don't really know about the streets, but you know what I'm saying, you a light. anything that you don't know that you are, if people talk about you and you don't, and you do everything to stay out of trouble and trouble still find you, you're a light. Listen, on a day-to-day basis, God confirms to us how powerful he is. But if you don't know how to see the truth, what the enemy would do is you will believe his lies. What you gotta look. So what, thank you for sharing that. So what you got to understand is, even in those comments, I don't know how many people share. Listen, if you know that God has delivered you from something, and you know you got an addiction, start dropping it in the comments for the people who just need that. So what you got to understand is, the reason why you want to change but you feel like you're alone. Okay, I'm gonna share mine. Okay, so what you got to understand is, yes, I'm on here, but let me tell you, let me give you a little testimony of my life. From the age of 2 all the way to 8, I was molested by women. Hold on, I'm not done, because I gotta bring some accountability in it. At the age of 6, I started liking it. But let me tell you something. What God does is, God will deliver you from something like that, right? He will place you in a new place. And what the enemy would do is, he will want to reattach. He will want to recreate those moments in a way that would keep you at a standstill with him. So yes, from the age of 2 all the way up to 8, I was molested by girls. Okay, cool. God took me from that environment to where I can't be around them people no more. And the moment that I got from that environment, I told you I started liking it, so I grew accustomed. That's how the enemy does. He gets you, just like I addressed in the live earlier, he gets you accustomed to the treatment. You can become conditioned to the treatment of others on you. And that keeps you in a form of bondage. So, okay, boom. Before I left, the enemy allowed, the enemy, which I didn't know, I'm a child. The enemy created that, okay, he knew what God was going to take me away from the people. Okay, I'm going to make him start liking it. So even though 2 years later, God took me from around it, the moment I got into a new location, the first thing that I did, because I missed that and actually liked it doing it, I wanted to recreate it. So what I fell into? Porn, and I fell into masturbation. Every day. I went through high school a virgin. I didn't lose my virginity to 19. But let me tell you what happened was, the fact of, I'm going to be transparent, I used to watch porn and touch myself sometimes 10, 15 times a day. I'm not exaggerating. You could go and ask God if you think I'm lying. I used to do that. I went from doing that every single day to every other day to every other week to now I could say that I've had the freedom to be able to not do it if I choose to want to, because we all human. It becomes, you will go from not having a form of freedom to God giving you that freedom where you're allowed to give him notice. I got to share this. It took me 14 years to conquer something that started 20 years ago. I'm 22 years old. I told you it started at 2. These things started, see, the enemy, it confirms everything. Listen, I'm telling you, I'm sharing my testimony. The enemy attaches these things to you at what I told you in the beginning of the video. He attaches these things to you when you're a child, because you don't know how to fight it off. And what made it worse is the people that was doing it to me was 6 and 7 years older than me. So what you have to understand is, yes, the enemy preys on those who are strong and makes them view themselves as weak. But if you're a person who got molested, if you're a person who got bullied, if you're a person who's been talked about your whole life, listen, the enemy go do everything in his power to kill your life. But see, the only way that I could talk about something that's really, the only way that I can validate that I know that God is real is because I didn't even realize God took me in a form of moderation. I told you, that's how I know it. I can't speak on something that God hasn't given me and showed me a way out of. I went from doing it every day to every other day to every other week to becoming free. And that took 14 years, really. But it took me until I was in my purpose. I've been in my purpose since October 15, 2020. That's when I was able to actually start to see that everything was happening in moderation. Before then, I didn't know. But what you have to understand is, yes, the enemy will attach things to you. And the things that, see, God knows how to reinvent himself in the form of sin, because you know how many people suffer from masturbation problems. You know how people suffer from sexual sin. You know how many people have been raped. You know how many people do this. What God would do is he would turn that suffering into a testimony that would not only free you, but will free the minds of those who suffer from the same thing you suffer for. That's why when God is in your life, You may think that you ain't got no purpose. That's why God says every man, every woman in this earth has a purpose. Because that deception, that sin, that thing that you have attached to you, there's 1,000, millions. Let's keep it 100. All of us are connected through sin. We all need God for something. So everything that you battle with, you're not only fighting it for you. You allowing God to come in to correct you. Could be the very thing that impact 10 lives. That 10 lives could turn into 10,000 lives. That 10,000 lives could turn into 10 million. And it's a domino effect. Even if it only saved one person. What you got to understand is, on this road with God, everything that the enemy attached to you to create a form of shame, when you give it to God, you go share that testimony. You ain't gonna care what people say about you, because you didn't know why everybody always wanted to take something from you. They took your lunch money from those who got bullied. They took your virginity from you, young lady. They raped you. Okay, the enemy has always been in the business to try to take something from you. You know why? Because you are light.